Hi everyone, I'm Alejandra Estanga from CBD Intel, which is a company that covers regulatory information and also do market research for the CBD sector. I'm a market analyst at the company, and today we will discuss a bit about which is the current status of CBD topicals in the market, covering 9 different countries, which are for us the main markets for CBD. Well, this is the agenda for today. First, I would like to introduce you to CBD Intel, who we are as a company, what we can offer, and of course, for those who doesn't know us, we're a consultancy company that offers information about what's going on with the CBD sector. Then we are going to talk a bit about which is the regulatory framework for topicals in all these countries that we're going to cover in the analysis. I'm going to, of course, show you which are these research specifications, the methodology that we use to gather all the information that we're going to talk about. And later, of course, I'm going to give you this current status of the CBD category topicals. And finally, I'm going to give you some key takeaways from this presentation. So who are we at CBD Intel? Where we are right now, a group of reporters, economists, and lawyers located mainly in Barcelona, in London, and also in the United States. We are doing research about what's going on in the regulatory side and also in the market side for the CBD sector. And of course, we give you a lot of quantitative data about this sector. A bit of an overview of what we're covering today. On the market side, we're covering more than 12 different countries. And then on the regulatory side, we're covering more than 30 jurisdictions. For us, it is very important to highlight that we are an impartial company and that we cover and we give you objective information. Then what we can offer as our products, we can give you detailed data about what's going on with the sector. We give you detailed market reports and regulatory reports. We can also offer you market trackers, which are these maps, regulatory maps with all the laws and the regulatory framework in each country. And then, of course, we can offer you the databases that we use to do all of this analysis. And as customers, we work with different type of companies. We work with manufacturers. We work with trade bodies like the FDA. We also work with vaping companies, companies from the food sector, and also we are working right now with pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so now let's talk a bit about which is the regulatory framework for the topicals category in all of these countries. So of course, right now there are many countries selling CBD. There are many CBD markets around the world, but we're gonna focus today on 9 different countries that we believe are the top CBD markets currently available in the world. So we're gonna talk a bit about the US and also another 8 European countries. And we're going to talk right now a bit about the regulatory framework for these countries. In the case of the US, because each state has its own law, some laws are clearer than others regarding these states, but then hemp-derived CBD is really allowed in most states. The difference between US and the other European countries is that the limit for the THC has to be 0.3%. In the case of the rest of European countries, they are very similar. The THC limit is 0.2%, and in all of them, synthetic CBD is allowed. In the US, some stakeholders say that synthetic CBD shouldn't be allowed because of the side effects this product can have on the body. There are not enough studies that can tell if this CBD chemically produced it's good for the body, so we will see what's going to happen in the future. But for now, synthetic CBD is allowed in most of these countries. In case of the European countries, the CBD is allowed for cosmetics. Nevertheless, the CBD must not come from an extract from the flowering parts of the plant. It must come from the seeds or from the leaves, but definitely not from the flowering parts. This is not the case in Switzerland, because in this case the flowering parts, the extracts from the flowering part of the plant are allowed, and also here the THC limit is higher, which is 1%. And then in contrast, we found Netherlands, where synthetic CBD is allowed, but then plant-based CBD it's illegal, but really is tolerated as we are looking some products marketed in the country. So now let's talk a bit about which is the methodology that we use for this research and all the research specifications considered for this analysis. So of course, as I previously said, we are gonna cover information about 9 different countries, 8 European countries, which are Austria, Germany, Greece, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and UK. And also we're gonna talk about the US market because it's right now the most relevant market for CBD. How did we gather all the information for this analysis? So of course, we previously did some research about which are the main brands in the online and in the offline markets of each of these markets. And then after having these top brands, we gather all the information regarding which are the main products they carry and the prices of all the product offerings. So of course, because they are these top brands of each of the countries, we believe they were representative of each of the markets. And today we will address or we will discuss about which are the common characteristics and main differences considering these product categories that are carried in each of the markets. And also we're going to talk about the current status of topicals, comparing the evolution of the SKUs available between the first quarter of 2020 and the last quarter of 2019. Well, as of today, of course, there are many different CBD products available globally, but at CBD Intel, we have grouped them under 9 different categories. These categories are oils, topicals, edibles, baking products, capsules, concentrates, pet products, and flowers. We find the other category referring to non-combustible inhalers, which is really a product that was introduced during the first quarter of 2020 by the brand Koi CBD, and it's only available in the UK and in the US. Then, as if you see below, you'll find that these are the number of product categories carried in each of the countries. You'll see that in Germany we only see 7 categories, and it's because here we couldn't find flowers within the top brands because some top brands are very compliant with the law, and laws in Germany are very strict regarding flowers. Also in the UK, although we find all the different categories available, pet products are not completely allowed. So many of the brands that are available in the country might say on their websites that their products are not sold in the UK. So this is something to consider because this country is now, there are not authorized pet products in the country. Well, right now, let's talk about which is the current status of topicals in all of these top markets. So of course, first, I wanted to talk a bit about the overview of the market because I do believe talking about topicals is very important and talking about the evolution of the category is very relevant, but then it's good also to compare the category with the other categories available in each of the countries, so that way we can really see if the category is relevant or not. So as you may see here, this is the percentage of brands in each of the countries carrying the different product categories. So as you may see, the oils category is the most relevant in all of the countries. They are carried by more than the 60% of the brands in all of the countries. And it's true that it's followed by topicals, which is the light green bar. So yeah, definitely oils and topicals are right now the most relevant categories in most of the countries. Nevertheless, in some cases, some categories might be more relevant depending on the country. As you may see in France, which is the second country that we find in the graph, you'll see that the gray bar is higher than the light green bar, and this is because the vaping category is more important in this country. CBD was introduced in France within the vaping category, so that's why it's not surprising to see how this vape category is most relevant in this country, even over topicals. In other cases, like Italy or Switzerland, where flowers are not banned and they are everywhere, they are very widespread in these countries, well, flowers are even more important than topicals, and even more than other categories. So, of course, depending on each of the countries and the development of the CBD sector in each of the countries, some categories might be more important than others. Nevertheless, as we can conclude here, that topicals and oils are the most important categories in all of the countries. Even in the US, topicals seems to be carried by more brands than oils. And this is the case because chains in the country might restrict the sales of oils, so that's why we see more brands available, more topicals available through top brands. So let's continue with the market overview, but now I'm gonna show you the evolution of SKUs between the first quarter of 2020 and the last quarter of 2019. So as you may see in this graph, this is the number of SKUs being introduced during the first quarter of 2020. Compared to the previous slide, where we're seeing that oils and topicals were the most important categories in all of the countries, now they are also the ones that have the higher or the larger number of products being introduced. So of course, these both categories are gonna still be the two most relevant in each of the countries. Nevertheless, if you see the whole picture, you'll see that there's a positive development of the CBD sector in general, because all of the product categories seem to have new products being introduced during this first quarter of 2020. Of course, topicals have a larger number of products being introduced, but there's a positive development of the whole sector in all of these countries. It's very important to highlight that probably in Austria, Germany, the UK, and Netherlands, there are even more topicals being introduced than any other category. So let's keep this in mind so that when we talk about the topicals status, we will understand why this category has become so relevant in each of the countries. Well, as you were probably waiting for, now we're gonna talk specifically about the topicals category. In these graphs, we are including all the product offerings from this category from all the different countries. As you may see on the left, you'll see that there has been an increase of the availability of topicals in a 30%, which is very relevant for a category in the CBD sector. On the right, you'll find the category breakdown into different subcategories, so that way we can really analyze which are these products that are becoming more available. As you see, in the last quarter of 2019, standard creams were more important than any of the other subcategories, followed by specialist beauty, standard balms, and medical focused products. Nevertheless, in the first quarter of 2020, now we're looking at specialist beauty products are more important than even standard creams. Specialist beauty products is what we call cosmetics and exactly beauty products. So as you may see, these specialized products which are meant to stop the aging or for wrinkles or just night and day cream for the face serums, they are becoming more available during this first quarter of 2020. Nevertheless, as you may see, there are 4 different subcategories that stand out, which of course are standard creams, specialist beauty, standard balms, and medical focus. Of course, there are other different subcategories that are going to be available because, of course, there are many brands trying to innovate, trying to introduce new type of products to the market, but they are not as available as these four subcategories that I just mentioned. So, as I just said, it's true that the specialist beauty products have become the most important subcategory in the market. Nevertheless, if you see the importance of all the different subcategories by country, this might change a bit. And even though it's true, specialist beauty products seems to remain more important in all of the different countries, followed by standard creams, it's not the case for the US or Switzerland. In both of these countries, standard creams are more widespread than specialist beauty products. And this is very important to highlight because, as you know, the US is the most important CBD market available right now. And it's true that specialist beauty products are really relevant, but standard creams are even more important than this type of products. Now let's break down a bit more the topicals category. As we were talking about, of course, there are four main subcategories available. Nevertheless, as I was saying previously, many brands are trying to innovate in the market and trying to differentiate themselves from other brands by introducing new type of products that might disrupt in the market. So this is the case for the topicals category. You'll see that there are brands offering sex aid products, sun protection products, suppositories, tattoo aftercare products. So there is a wider offer of topicals that brands are introducing. Nevertheless, as we just saw before, four categories which are specialist beauty products, standard creams, standard balms, and medical focused products are the most relevant. And here you'll see the number of new SKUs introduced during this first quarter of 2020. Of course, specialist beauty products became the most important subcategory of the topicals category because 150 different SKUs were introduced compared to the 56 SKUs introduced within standard creams. Something that I didn't say before, but it's true that it might be important to explain, is that within medical focused products, we find products that are meant to relieve pain for fitness purposes. So it's true that these medical focused products are also helping skin conditions like eczema or psoriasis. So that's why we call them medical focused products, and they are also becoming more available in the market. And we are looking also at many sports focused CBD products in this first quarter of 2020. So even though topicals have become the second most important category, you'll see that doesn't seem that during the first quarter of 2020 there was a lot of competition within the category. Why? We can explain this by understanding which is the number of new added SKUs compared to those getting discontinued. And if you see these graphs, where we're talking about the two most important subcategories, the number of discontinued SKUs is very low. Only in the US is that we're really looking at standard creams getting discontinued. But of course, the US is a very dynamic market. It's also the most relevant market where many topicals were already introduced before than in other countries. So of course, probably some discontinued products are going to be seen. Nevertheless, if you see the products getting introduced compared to those getting discontinued, it's not that relevant, the ones that are getting discontinued. So this is something that we compare to the oils category. It shows how the positive development of topicals category, because within oils we see a lot of competition, pricing competition, products, a wider number of products getting discontinued. It's not the case for the topicals category, into where we are looking that there are many new SKUs getting introduced, not only within these two different subcategories, but the number of products getting discontinued is very low. So very interesting to understand the positive development of the topicals category. So of course it was very interesting to understand the positive development of the topicals category regarding the number of SKUs available during the first quarter of 2020. Nevertheless, there are other aspects that might be very important to analyze and to consider in the future for maybe competition. So this is a case for prices. Right now in this graph, we're looking at the price per milligram of CBD by category. So that way we can understand a bit why some categories might be more available than others. Because they may be more competitive or because brands can produce them at lower cost or any other reason. As we said before and during the presentation, oils are the most important category in all these markets and also is the cheapest category of all. There is a lot of competition within the category and price is one of the main factors why brands are competing within this category. In the case of topicals, topicals is one of the most expensive categories right now available in the market. Maybe because, as we have seen, there appears not to be much competition right now during the first quarter of 2020, but maybe in the future we will have to see if this price is gonna go down due to competition. Because topicals are very new, there are many brands innovating, there are many brands introducing new SKUs, but probably when there is more availability of these products, competition is gonna become a factor and prices might go down in the future. So this is something to consider in the near future for the topicals category. Of course, it was very important to analyze the price per milligram of CBD between different categories, so that way you can understand why there's competition within a category, of why brands are starting to sell or introduce new number of SKUs within a category or not, and where they will compete in the future. So of course this is very important to understand in the future, not only for the topicals but also for the different categories. Right now we're gonna analyze the different subcategories within the topicals category, so that way we can also see if there's going to be competition in the future. Of course, we are going to focus on the four most important subcategories because, as we said before, the number of SKUs available in the rest of subcategories might not be that representative of the market. So talking about these four main categories, we'll see that specialist beauty products are in fact the most expensive type of product. Of course, right now these products are becoming more available. Brands are introducing a larger number of these products in the market, and as we just said, there doesn't seem to be that many competition between these products. But then we will see in the future if the specialist beauty products will drop prices to compare to standard creams, standard balms, or medical focused products. So finally, let's talk about the key takeaways to take from this presentation. So I do think there are some key points to take away from this presentation, as I believe they explain the positive development of the category during the first quarter of 2020. First of all, I want to highlight the larger number of products that we see this first quarter of 2020. We can see that compared to the last quarter of 2019, the availability of topicals has increased in 30%, which I think is very relevant talking about a category within the CBD sector. Another thing that is very important is how specialist beauty products have become the most important subcategory in these markets. Nevertheless, of course, in the case of US and Switzerland, standard creams are still the most important subcategory. Also, there is a wider number of products introduced during the first quarter of 2020, while there's a low number of products being discontinued. So that means competition is not that high during the first quarter of 2020, so we have to keep track of this and see how it develops in the future of topicals. Also, how topicals are in general one of the most expensive categories in the market, with $0.16 per milligram of CBD. And finally, how these specialty beauty products are the most important subcategory in the topicals category, but then the median price per milligram of CBD has increased and is the highest of the four most important subcategories in the category. Well, thank you so much for coming to my presentation. Of course, at CBD Intel, we are very glad that you came to my presentation, and I hope if you have any questions about this topic or any other topic about CBD, you can reach to us because we have a lot to offer. We have these topicals reports and other categories reports, comparison between countries reports, so that way if you're interested in knowing more about the market side of the market or the regulatory side of the CBD sector, then you feel free to contact with us. If you like this presentation, please connect with us and follow us on our social media. We have Twitter, we have LinkedIn, so please follow us. And if you have any particular question and you want to reach directly to me, again, Maria Alejandra Estanga from CBD Intel, and here I'm leaving you my email and my LinkedIn account, so feel free to contact me anytime you want. Thank you so much.